And we're joined this morning by former Canterbury player and coach, cricket coach Garry MacDonald from the beautiful city of Nelson in New Zealand. Garry, great to have you as a guest on Absolutely Famous. And we're here, of course, to talk about the two test matches, New Zealand versus England over in England. And, the Black Caps have been disappointing, but what about Brendan McCALLUM's influence straight away with England?
Well, man, he could actually help our national debt, that guy, if we could hire him out. There's no doubt about it. The influence that he's had is very, very obvious, isn't it? I mean, I expected him, like a lot of other sort of cricket close followers, to have an influence, but so quickly, it's just incredible. And you can see how the Black Caps when he was playing and captain, you can see how we went okay too. I mean, it's just amazing what he's done with that team. Man, he's given them some confidence. And they're a damn dangerous team now, aren't they?
Very dangerous. Well, that's what he's done. He's just changed their whole mindset. And with Ben Stokes captain, he's obviously said to him, just go out and stop blocking and play your natural game. And he's a dangerous, very dangerous player.
Well, I'm not just saying it now because 2 weeks ago, I've just been talking to a friend of mine in England, and he said, gee, you warned me about this 2 weeks ago, Mac. And I said, yeah, I did. I said, with Root at 4, Bairstow at 5, and Stokes at 6, and I actually said to Dave over there in England, I said, you have got the best and most dangerous middle order in the world. And he's a typical bomb, he said, oh, bloody crap, we're hopeless. And then I said, no, you're not. You've finally got a batting order that makes some sort of sense. And now you're throwing that keeper boy as well, who bats like he's come off about 10,000 runs in his career. And, they're serious. That's a serious cricket team they've got there. And, after that test, they've probably almost changed the way that Test cricket may be, going forward.
Well, you don't often see both teams get in excess of 500 in the first innings and still get an outright victory, do you? That's pretty rare.
Well, yes, it is. I haven't seen the stats on that, but I think I did hear something, but it's very, very rare. I suppose if we are looking at it objectively, excuse me, one of the reasons why that happened, besides the fact that both teams tried to play very positively, was actually some flaws in those teams that actually allowed that to happen. And I'm talking about the catching, because there was some crucial catches during both tests, and one very disappointing no ball, which is another flaw, because at key moments, if some of those key catches had been taken, one of those two teams could have put those tests away quite easily. But it was actually that, when you think about it, it was the catching and the poor fielding that actually allowed that test to happen that way, I think. And it's particularly disappointing from New Zealand's point of view, because I think it's fair to say, you can argue with it, but I'd say in the last decade, we've been the best fielding team in the world. And, gee whiz, that was one thing that I was sort of a bit disappointed with our boys, is that it's something that we've held in very high esteem in our cricket, is our fielding. And man, it was double figures of the amount of catches dropped in that last test, which is a hell of a lot. That's over the two teams, of course.
Yeah, that is a lot of catches. It seems as though since we won the Test Championship, the wheels have fallen off. We've gone to sleep at the wheel.
Well, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum earlier, and so it's not you've got to be very careful that you're not putting the boot in after the event. But what you say, we have actually been discussing this on this forum too, about this very point. And I've always sort of, I'm not Nostradamus or anything like that, but I've been really concerned about some of the directions and the policies that we've been having, even though, for about the last 4 or 5 tests that we've played, I've been worried about it. And I think the chickens have come home to roost a little bit. But all I'm hoping is that we can hang in and bounce back from the next test. Whether we're asleep at the wheel, I think, that sounds pretty harsh for this team because they have been pretty, they've been pretty good competitors. But you have to start. The questions are being asked now about that, and so I'd want to analyse it positively rather than just sinking the boot into them. I think this is the time now where we probably really do need to support them. But some of the directions and policies that we've taken, especially with our spinners, as you know, has been a bugbear of mine. And also, we're sort of, I think with our selections, interestingly, John, I'm just reading a book at the moment about the Great Farlack, the great racehorse. Very interesting book, actually. And one thing that's come through in that by reading in this trainer and that is that even he got spelled when he wasn't playing well, or when he wasn't racing well. They'd put him out, turn him out. We've got a couple of players in our team that I just think get automatic selection, and their results of recent times would suggest that maybe they need to be spelled as well. So, but we seem very reluctant to do that, to make those hard decisions. Our use and handling of our spinners in particular is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. So maybe we do need to have a bit of a rethink about what we're doing.
Yeah, the thing I'm struggling with is in the spinning department is Javed Patel, who in his last test match overseas 6 months ago took 14 wickets in the test, 10 in one innings, bowled the whole Indian side out. He's bowled, in this series, 2 overs. I can't. Yeah, I'm struggling with that.
I've even sputtered me cough lolly out.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be positive here, but and then Michael Bracewell comes in out of nowhere, who's a part-time spinner. He bowled pretty well too, and batted well.
He did.
But I hope he hasn't leapfrogged Javed Patel by doing that.
Well, he has.
Yeah, well, he's in the team, isn't he? So he must have.
And Javed Patel, I mean, I just feel so sorry for the guy. And I mean, I'm almost at the point where I feel like giving him a call and say, listen, why don't you need to go and live in another country, mate. Because it's just Michael Bracewell bowled pretty well, but let's have a look at that as well. I mean, he's been bowling spin for 2 years. 2 years, and yet every time I bring the spinners up to a lot of people around, when I talk to them, they say, oh yeah, but that's all very well, but we haven't got the spinners. Well, if that's the case, how do we play a spinner who is now probably our front line spinner, because they always find reasons not to pick Ajax? How is it that we've got a spinner who's only been doing it for 2 years can be our front line spinner, and then you're going to tell me that there's no one else around this country? That's nonsense. But we're not trying to find them. Ajax, as you say, I don't know, through either non-selection or not knowing how to use them has really been on the receiving end of this. And I actually feel very sorry for him. But I'll tell you what, John, I'm actually getting to the stage where I don't think we should pick him either. Not because he's not good enough, but what is the point if he's going to bowl 2 overs, just like you said, in the last 2 or 3 tests, after he's just created history? So if you're not going to use him, well, you might as well do something else then, because it's got past the point of me complaining about it and others. Don't pick him. If you're not going to use him, don't pick him. That's what it's got to, really. Yeah,
it's a mindset thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously, Steady he comes from an absolute outstanding spin bowling background with his dad David and himself bowling good leggy. So I'm not saying he's anti-spin, and I'm not close enough to the team to know exactly what's going on, but I'm really struggling with that. I'm struggling with the attitude of the captaincy of Tom Latham. I think it's conservative. I think, I do. And another shock selection was leaving Neil Wagner out.
Yeah.
And playing Matt Henry.
Right. That's probably, for me, leaving Wagner out is probably at the time when they had a look at the wicket, they may have thought that that Henry, because there was a green tinge to that wicket, which is why both teams were going to bowl, if they won the toss, and they may have thought that that Henry was going to be a better option. So I can sort of see why they were wrestling with that. But look, the selection of Neil Wagner is bittersweet for me because he bowls and he's the type of cricket player that if you were picking your team, if you were a selector and I was John, he would be the first one picked in our team because of his attitude, his resilience, his toughness and everything like that. So he would, to most clear-thinking people, hopefully you and I are in that category.
Most of the time.
It's debatable at times, but he would be one of your first ones picked. When I say it's bittersweet for me, it's because he bowls the overs that a spinner would bowl for New Zealand. He doesn't bowl with the new ball. Henry does, or can. He bowls those overs when the ball is older, flat, there's nothing happening, and he comes in with all that aggression, determination, and bangs it in, and bowls that short stuff and comes at the batsman very hard. So he bowls spinners overs. So that's why it's a bit bittersweet for me, because I know that when he's playing, especially when they have a four seam battery attack, that that the spinner's not going to play. So that's why I and who knows, Michael Bracewell may not have played either if he, if they decided to go that way, which they usually haven't played Wagner. So what can you say? To me, that's a little bit. I probably would have slightly agreed with that selection because of they wanted to bowl first. And I think Henry, they've seen him as being more of a, to be fair to them. But yeah, he'll definitely play the next one, won't he? He's got to.
Yeah, I think so. From looking at the English team, magnificent innings from Johnny Bairstow and the batting of Joe Root in this series, apart from the second innings in the second test, has been superb. That century of Bairstow in the second innings, he just clubbed us to death, really, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he can do that. And, he's one hell of a dangerous, hell of a player, that guy. And you've got Stokes coming after him as well. And in a number of occasions, those two are going to be batting with Root, who's still in. So, that was an amazing innings, really. And Trent Bridge was pretty flat. But still, even so, what can you say? It's just, listening to Broad and that in the interview before the second to last day and all that sort of, if they had to chase 350, they were going to have a crack at it. It just didn't worry them what the score was.
No.
And just remember, this time last year, they had basically exactly the same score to chase, or a few more. It was 275 and 70 overs, and England bailed out and said, right from the word go, we're not having a go. And these guys won with 22 overs to spare.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, really.
You'd need another 150 runs, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, that's right. Incredible performance.
Yeah, it was. It was great Test cricket, and isn't it wonderful to see? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, she's all good. No, what I was meaning is that great to see Broad and Anderson bowling so well still, in the so-called twilight of their careers, are still hooping it around and bowling beautifully.
Yeah, they really are. They're just amazing, aren't they? What can you say about it? It's just, they're freaks of nature. And, it's just amazing to watch them. And just on that too, there's a number of bowlers, Archer and that have got to come back into that side if needed. I think they're in for a great era of cricket, this team. I really do. I think the English could be very, very dangerous, And Broad and Anderson have been the catalyst of that for a number of years.
They have. Of course, a lot of individual positives for New Zealand. The batting of Daryl Mitchell and the bowling of Trent Boult through the series was outstanding. In particular, Mitchell. I mean, he's just made Test cricket just fun for him, isn't it? It's like shelling peas.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, he is. He's been a revelation. Can I just talk about Mitchell a little bit with the bowling? You know, there's one thing that really intrigues me in this team is, especially if we're trying, which we're not, but if we were trying to have a spinner playing, you know, so that we've got all bases covered with our attack, why haven't we asked Mitchell to bowl? And why haven't we given him a chance so that he becomes almost like a fourth seamer? Just looking at, I mean, I'm pretty sure he was a bowling all-rounder before his batting took such to the great heights that they were. Well, he was definitely as good. And if you had, he's a little bit like the Gromholm, really. I mean, the Gromholm gets a chance to bowl a lot more than what Mitchell does. But it's a little bit of the unknown yet because we haven't tried him. Now, if we had, because I know you're talking about his batting and that speaks for itself. He has been amazing. He's also a tough rooster. And, you know, and probably a little bit from his father from that point of view. But, you know, I just don't understand why we're not trying to develop his bowling. And if we could carry him or use him as our fourth seamer with three other front liners, it means we can get a spinner in, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So, but we just haven't used him or given him a chance. So we don't know, do we? I mean, I don't. I just love to see him bowl some overs, which may balance him out because he's resilient and tough enough and fit enough to be an all-round player, an all-rounder, you know, with his batting as his main skill. But I think if we could develop his bowling and have a little bit of faith and confidence in it, that he can do a job, it just opens up more options for our attack. You know, gives us more options. We've been using the Gromholm in that role, but how can you drop Mitchell now? So you can't. I mean, and nor should you. But so in that case, if for the balance of our attack, let's get his bowling up to speed. Let's see what he can do. He can, you know, maybe, you know, bowl those 10, 12 over little, you know, 8 to 12 over spells, you know, just to rest everyone and et cetera, et cetera. But we just don't seem to be, these options is where I think, if you call it asleep at the wheel, I would just say it just seems to be, I don't think that we're prizing the resources as best we can, or the prospective resources that may be at our disposal, but we're not trying it. We're not looking at it that way.
Just a bit of
it's 4 quicks and all rounder, which gives you 5 quicks, and that's it. There's no other sort of options. And that's what's the most worrying thing me with this team. Besides our fielding, I'm really concerned about our fielding because if I can hark back to that, John, the fielding is the one thing that, you know, if it's going well, that the culture and a number of other things in that team are operating well. That's the one thing you do when you link arms together and you say, righto boys, we've got to do this together. It's like the defence in rugby. Fielding is your defence. Sure, you can be attacking by having more slips and a guy under the hat, but really fielding is your defence, just like in rugby it is. You know, their defence is the same thing. But when we start dropping catches and balls starting to go through our hands, I know that there was lightning outfield and things like that. I just think, whoa, that immediately to me and to most guys that have been involved with cricket, especially in a coaching thing, understand that your fielding is your litmus test to where you are, you know? And because we've led the way, and anyone will tell you that, you know, even opposition countries and players and say, oh, bloody Kiwis, it's bloody fielding, you know, when you get out there to bat, you know that they're coming at you. You know, you're going to have to work hard to get it through them and things like that. So that is another concern to me is our fielding.
Another good individual performer and a guy who's really cemented himself, Tom Blundell, of course, with a lovely century and some good wicket keeping and that. Is there any, do you worry about our batting? I mean, the skipper's not going too good at the moment, but he's got a good record.
Who?
Tom Latham, sorry. Tom and
Tom Latham.
And
Yeah.
Williamson, of course, but we know that it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Williamson's only played 2 tests out of the last 9, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. Tommy Latham is now, I think unfairly, you read a few reports and stuff around papers that he's a hometown bully now and like flat tracks and things like that, which I think is a bit unfair. But of course, these things are going to rear their head when someone's not getting any runs. So, no, I don't really worry about Tommy Latham. I mean, to me, you've got to play him. He's a tough guy, and I think it's only a matter of time. Williamson worries me because he's just injured all the bloody time. It's through no fault of his own. But if you have Tommy a little bit out of sorts, and you have Williamson not playing, that's quite hard to cover up, isn't it? It's hard to replace that stuff. So that's where the worry is, that issue.
So Gary, you're in Gary Stead's shoes for the next test, the last test, the dead rubber. What would you do, selection-wise and tactics? Who would you pick first, and what would you tell your boys?
Well, some of them are, some of the changes are going to be forced, aren't they? Williamson has got to come back in. Williamson's going to, the big tall guy, he's going to go out.
Jamison's out, yeah.
Jamison, he's got to go out. So Williamson will come. Who he comes for, that's the interesting one. The bowlers will just swap over, I guess, Wagner and Jamison. And Williamson's got to come in, and for who? I was thinking about that this morning, and I haven't quite got my head around that yet. To see what they'll do there. Will Bracewell miss out? Leaves him a bowler short though, doesn't it? So which means probably Ajaz possibly won't be picked as well. I don't know.
Will Young might be the one. Will Young might be the one.
Yeah, he could be. That's right, because you see, I'd be giving. It's not going to happen, but the first thing I'd be doing after this last test, I'd be giving Timmy Southey a list, and have a look. Is that the way that we can, it's a shame as I say, repeating myself, it's a shame we haven't given Mitchell a bowl, because then it's more likely we could do that. But maybe then we can. I don't know much about the Headingley wicket, to be honest. I've never really had much to do with it. I've been to Tread Bridge a number of times, and we all watched it. I'm not too sure what happens up there. You may know more about that than me.
No,
because that's
I'm in the dark.
Going on. Yeah, I'm afraid I am too. So I want to get a little bit more information on that wicket and the forecast and that before I start sort of getting my head around it. So I'm sorry I haven't done that already.
And what do you think Steady will be telling his boys, attitude, tactics wise?
Well, I think, they're 2-0 down. Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're 2-0 down, so, the World Test Championship is basically gone now. So, I'd just be saying to them, we've just got to stick to what we do well. I think the first thing I'd say, I know that they're having a few days off at the moment. I would be inclined to cut one of those 2 or 3 days off and have 2 fielding sessions in a day. And let's get this right. Let's field like hell. That's the first thing we've got to do, because if we're going to drop catches and not field properly, we can have all the tactics and all the nice words in the dressing room that you like. But you know what it's like, catches when matches, fielding is crucial. I still think there's enough runs in the team. So I would say he would be. There's no point being timid about it, is it? They've got a front-footed as well. I'm a little bit concerned that B Mac has got he's maybe psyching us out a little bit, that guy, just having him in the opposition team. I'm just not sure how we're handling that more than anything.
Not very good so far.
They're not. But it'll be interesting. But one thing about this team, they have shown resilience before, and I don't think they're going to just lie down, to be honest.
We do, for all our criticism, it's constructive criticism. We love the Black Caps and Steady and the boys, and we wish them only well. It's like when we talk about the All Blacks, the same thing. It's because we give a toss about the team that we have these discussions, and I hope it's taken that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, and we're all on it, but no, it's not on this forum. But were you happy with the All Black team?
Oh yeah, the All Black team. Not entirely, no.
Neither am I, actually. But it sounds like we're a couple of old dinosaurs and are not happy about any bloody thing. We're very proud of our team.
I'm very happy to still be alive, though, Gary, at my age.
Yeah, well, you're living in paradise over there, so no wonder you are happy.
Yeah, I think you're pretty good where you live too, just quietly, in the beautiful Nelson.
Oh, that's fair enough.
Well, mate, I'm looking forward to the third test, and I'll be just as keen on that as I was watching the first, and we'll hopefully catch up with you next week or the week after and have a chat about the series and where we go from here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's going to have to be some pretty soulful thinking about our direction. Just because it's worked in the past doesn't necessarily mean that going forward it's going to work again. You've always got to be, trying to keep ahead of it, aren't you? Otherwise you're going backwards, mate.
Yeah, correct. All right, mate. Thanks so much, Gary. We always love talking to you about cricket or anything really, but thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, and good luck over there in the land of the convicts, and you've made it. You've made a nice little place for yourself there, so that's really good.
There we go, mate. And good luck on the golf course today too.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it'll be my first hit out for a while because the weather's been so crap. It backed up, so don't know how it'll go, but we'll give it a nudge.
Good stuff. Thanks, mate. Awesome.
Thanks, John.